you know, the way that you do. And however that's the most comfortable. And if you're not in Makrasana and you have head turned to the side, just be mindful of that. I'll try to remind you when we're I don't know, about halfway through to turn your head if you haven't. But wherever you are, whatever position your head and arms are in, start to allow yourself to sink in. And at first there might be some resistance to being squished. But just kind of surrendering into this squish and just allowing yourself to settle and kind of spread out like a puddle. The most noticeable places are very likely your lungs and your belly, kind of your ribs are being pushed, your belly's being pushed. But as you start to lengthen your breath and slow it down, you might notice some other spaces that are getting a little bit more relief. Like the space between your shoulder blades, like your SI joints. Maybe you can kind of feel the pressure on the tops of your thighs, and in combination with that and the pressure on your belly, maybe your pelvic floor is starting to relax a little bit too. The pelvic floor is a funny thing. We don't know that we're holding and making those muscles shorter because they do, you know, it does hold in our viscera. So we do need for it to be strong, but also pliable. So giving it a moment to kind of relax and not be contracted all the time. Pulling in some deep breath into the backs of your lungs. In the bottoms of your lungs. Imagining that you can envision the breath coming all the way down to the very lowest part of the lowest lobe. Maybe even imagining that you can watch that little oxygen exchange where the new fresh oxygen gets dropped off into the train, and then the old carbon dioxide gets dropped off onto the platform. Find 3 more big, deep breaths. Letting ribs get big. Letting low back fill up. I never reminded you to turn your head, so maybe turn that real quick if you are not totally face down, and take a couple breaths. If you didn't have your head turned, just take a couple breaths anyway. That can't hurt. slide your hands out to the sides in line with your shoulders and tent your fingers, elbows up, and face just hovering right above the mat. And you may already notice this stretch across your pecs and into your upper arms. But keep elbows pointed up toward the sky. And on your inhale, press into your fingertips and lift up. So it might not be very high this first time. Exhale, lower down. Might be a little surprise to your belly and to your back. But let's say 3 more times. Inhaling up, exhaling down into this little cobra. Maybe each one gets higher. Maybe each one stays the same height, but just feels a little easier. Inhaling on your way up. Exhaling on your way down. Last time up. And down. Slide your hands underneath your shoulders. Make your knees wide. Peel yourself up and off and back into your child's pose. And if you want to slide your blanket under your forehead, if that feels nice, do that. However you want to be in your child's pose, but just noticing after having been on your belly for so long, and then finding those cobras, how much space starts to come into the lower spine when we change its direction. So intentionally sending your breath down to the low back here. And one more breath. Then crawl your way up into your tabletop. Hands under shoulders or slightly ahead, knees under hips. And we won't do cat-cow today. Not right this second anyway. But we're gonna circle the whole body. So what I mean by that is shift your weight forward until you start to feel it in your wrists. So shoulders may become a little closer to fingertips than over wrists. And then shift your shoulders and your hips over to the right. So most of the weight is in your right hand. Shift hips and shoulders back like you're going to child's pose, but just like halfway there. And then over to the left, whole body shifts to the left. And then whole body shifts forward, hovering shoulders just over the hands or maybe even over the fingertips. So we'll do that 2 more times in a circle clockwise. And faster than I cued it in the first place. And then when you get to the top of that circle, shift to the left first and around 4 times in this circle. When you're finished with that 4th circle, shift your weight back into child's pose, flip your hands, make fists, and start to roll wrists. So you might not be able to leave your hands or your arms on the ground. You might have to like kind of prop on elbows and roll wrists. Or interlace fingers and roll your wrists that way. That might be easiest. I'm going to take one more full breath here as you roll wrists. Come back to your tabletop. Shift your weight back into down dog. And start immediately to walk hands back to feet into your forward fold. So it doesn't matter if this is a wide leg forward fold or feet are closer together. Give yourself a nice bend in your knees. Let your belly and your chest kind of rest on thighs. And then that same circle that we did in our tabletop, do that here with your feet. So shift your weight forward into your toes, and then hips over to the right, hips back toward the wall behind you, left, and then forward again. And then 3 circles that way, maybe at a little quicker pace. Just kind of stirring that direction first. And then when you hit the center, start counterclockwise, 4 circles that way. And then stop in the center, rock your weight back into your heels, and slowly, slowly, slowly start to peel yourself up toward standing. Once you arrive, shoulders come all the way up to your ears and then slide back down. So a couple circles that way. So drag your shoulders forward like you're rounding your upper spine, and then up to your ears, back behind you where shoulder blades come together, and then 2 more times. And then switch directions. So pull your shoulders back first, up toward your ears, and then round forward. That might be super awkward, but a couple times that way. And then just kind of give your shoulders a little wiggle and let them settle where they like. Send your arms out and up. Inhale, fingertips touch. Interlace fingers, save the index finger or not, it doesn't really matter. I just like to have that little steeple. And then press index fingers up. Find your flexion over to the right, a little half moon. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, half moon to the left. Inhale, center. Exhale, cactus. Open the chest, lift the chin. Inhale, reach arms up, palms come to touch, hands come all the way down through heart center into your forward fold. Maybe ragdoll here, maybe not. Like, we're gonna be here just for 2 breaths. So if you wanna hang and have hands on elbows, do that. If you'd rather have the support of your hands resting on the floor or on your shins, do that. 1 more breath. Rock back into your heels, roll yourself up into standing. Inhale, arms lift up. Steeple your fingers, exhale to the right. Inhale to center, exhale to the left. Inhale up, release the hands, cactus the arms, open the chest. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, soft knees and fold. Just 1 breath this time. Big inhale. Big exhale. Rock back into your heels. Roll yourself up. Inhale, arms up, hands clasp. Exhale to the right. Inhale, center. Exhale to the left. Inhale, cactus. Inhale up. Hands down through heart center into your forward fold. Walk your hands forward into your tabletop. And then here we find some cat-cow and whatever other movement works for you, circles or lateral flexion. Just move your spine in a way that feels good to you. And find a neutral spine. Walk your hands back out all the way to your belly again. So if you want to slide your blanket under your hips again, and that feels nice, do that for sure. Find your sphinx. So elbows either right under your shoulders or a little wider. That is kind of between you and your low back. Like a little bit of compression can be kind of nice, because then when you go into a neutral spine, you get this like whoosh, this rush of fluids running back to that spot. But if it doesn't feel good, don't do it. Slide your right knee out to the side and just take a couple breaths here with this sphinx and with the knee out to the side before we come into a twist. So just kind of noticing how that feels on the inner thigh and like the right side low back. Because we have one side of the pelvis doing one thing and one side kind of grounding. And press up into your right hand. Lift yourself up so you can slide your left arm all the way through and open the right arm into a twist. So blanket might come in handy here under the right knee or the right shoulder if either one of those feel like they need support. Kind of a big twist. We haven't really done any twists so far, so it's kind of a big one to start on and end on. Just take as big of breath as you are able and is comfortable. And notice what changes in your shoulder and your ribs and your spine, your hip. And one more breath here. And as you bring your arm back up and over, also be straightening the right leg. So when you wind up back on your belly, it's hard to get that arm out from underneath, then you're back in alignment. Realign everything. Slide your left knee out to the side. And then again, just hanging out here without the twist, just noticing how that feels inside the inner thigh, like, and not even just inner thigh, but like all the way up in those attachments in the groin area. And this is also a good pelvic floor thing, because we just don't often move in this way. It just gets a little relief in ways that we don't normally get in our, day-to-day natural movement. Press into your left hand, lift yourself up, slide your right arm all the way through. Left arm opens out to a twist. And then all that same stuff applies with the shoulder or the knee being supported. Or just leaving them to kind of do their thing. You might settle, if if it's not supported, you may find that your exhales allow you to kind of settle down into it a little bit. And notice your breathing on this side. And if it's the same as on the other side, I find my breath to be really restricted on this side. Where I'm not really gasping for air, but it certainly isn't as easy. Nothing to do about that, just taking note. And one more breath. And start to roll back to your belly, straightening that left leg, unwinding the arm, pressing yourself up and back into a child's pose. And finding 2 full deep breaths here. I'm going to make your way up and then to your seat and right to your back. Leave your feet flat on the mat and take a couple windshield wipers. A little more gentle than the twists we just did. Little alternating pressure on the SI joints and on the sides of the hips. And then let your feet and legs come out long, arms wherever you want them. Shoulder blades tucked behind you, eyes closed. And let the breath come naturally. And I've read this to you before, I'm almost positive. But I'm going to read it again. I really like it. Yoga is not about the pose. It's not about the alignment of toes or hips or shoulders. It's not about the form. Yoga is an invitation to explore, not a command performance. It speaks the language of the soul. In the flow of breath and motion, yoga coaxes us from the confines of the known, across the silent threshold into vastness. Yoga is guided from the inside. It is healing and the joy of saying yes to life. Breathe, relax, and feel the body receive its own truth. The seed of freedom flowers within each of us whenever we're open to what's real. Take one more big breath. Start to bring in a little bit of movement. Slowly, slowly. And when you're ready, roll to your side. And find your way to seated. Nice. And reach your arms out to the side. Take a big inhale, breath. Palms come to touch. And hands come to heart center. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace.